Right, welcome back to the program. Now let's turn to the federal government's budget. Take your pick, whether it's 2024 or 2025. While the Tinubu administration continues to highlight its revenue drive, questions have continued to persist over poor funding of key projects and irregular capital releases. Analysts say this gap is slowing down development in many vital sectors. Well, to help us unpack these issues, we're joined by Muktar Modibbo, the Secretary General of Follow the Money International with Connected Development, a non-governmental organization keeping track of issues like this and many more. It's good to see you again. I think it's been too long.
It's been too long.
Thank you for stopping by this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Right, let's provide some context. I mean, the budget is always a plan, one that ends up being implemented 100%, and in some cases, not necessarily. Help us contextualize what we're dealing with here, because for the most part of this year, the federal government has been financing the 2024 budget, and we're almost done with 2025. What can you tell us about the nature of the situation we're dealing with here, first and foremost?
All right, so, first to give a context, we need to understand the kind of recognized type of budgets that we have and what are we running. We've got the deficit, we've got the surplus, we've got the program or budget line, we've got the performance, and, when we talk about budgets, it's always the want and the need of the people, right? So we've been running deficit form of budget where what we generate, we have balance as well. So some countries are running balanced form of budget where what they generate and what they spend is the same, right? They don't have anything. While we run some level of deficit where what we generate is less than what we spend. Right. Now, if you look at what we have been doing, most of the time, some countries we do incremental. There's another form of budget that is called incremental form of budget where budgets get to increase, this has not been expended, then you add another thing to it or you subtract another thing to it. So what is happening with us is the fact that our budget has been a budget for the want and the need of the people, but it comes in incremental level. Incremental level in the sense that if you look at a budget to a revenue to GDP that we've been running compared to other countries like South Africa, Kenya, Botswana, and what have you, we've been running around 10%, one of the lowest. South Africa is running revenue to GDP around 27%, Kenya 26%. So almost should I say 40% of or 60% of our budget is running based on what do you call it, financing our debt, right? Compared to countries that are running almost 10% servicing debt and what have you. So what is leaving us with this kind of thing is to show that we don't have enough resources, just less than 40%, right, to fund capital project. I'll give you an example with the 2024 budget that we have. It's around 28.7 trillion. Massive numbers, right? Now, but if you look at it, 60% of that is going for debt servicing, right? Quite a number of almost 29 to 30%. 29% goes to salaries and what have you, while 30% goes to other capital project. So how do we achieve that? Now, if you come down to maybe constituency project, that is the zonal intervention project, they are meant to be projects that are really close to the people. People can feel development. If you look at what is happening in Kenya, I'm not saying it's really happening well, but if you look at, they call it constituency funds, right? Now, these funds are really contribute to almost 2.7% of their budget and are really being influenced by the community. But what we have here, because we are not able to have resources to fund our budget, automatically we are not able to do that kind of thing. So mostly our constituency projects are in 100 million, but I mean, we don't get to see it. Why do we have that zonal intervention? Just because it's been influenced by the legislators, and it's a feeling that legislators can influence the needs and the want of the people. So that's the issue.
And we also understand that there are some grumblings within the 10th Assembly, especially in the House of Representatives, where a reporting by the leadership newspaper is talking about how members feel aggrieved because some of the constituency projects allocated to their constituents in 2024 have not been financed to date. And just a couple of months ago, we witnessed consistently protests at the Federal Ministry of Finance, whether by pensioners or contractors who say they have not been paid. That's on one side. On the other side, you have an administration that is beating its chest about its revenue drive being achieved even before the end of the year, about some of its successes in terms of economic reform. How do you square the circle to make sense for Nigerians who are confused about what to believe or who to believe?
So if you look at governance, it's all about a cycle. It's a cycle process. So because the previous administration has been borrowing. So I call the previous administration and this administration as the same because it's one party system, right? It's APC that we're in and it's APC that we have. So there have been quite a number of borrowing and we need to service that debt, right? So the debt servicing, we are not generating quite a number of resources before. And now we're also not generating enough, right? So for us not being able to generate enough, we cannot fund the capital project. And the ZIP, that is the zonal intervention or constituency project, are part of the capital project. We only have 40% of the entire budget goes to the capital project, be it buildings of schools and what have you. So all this is embedded on that, while the rest of the money goes to paying salaries, paying wages and
recurrent,
what have you, recurrent, right? And another part of the money is what we owe, what we collected before and utilized. So that is to tell you that automatically on the list that I mentioned, from balance to deficiency to incremental to program and line item, we're not doing all this. We're only working with the deficit because we are generating something that is not up to what we should generate. And we have a lot of spending, and the spendings are incremental. We're not removing it, we're increasing it.
So is it fair for people to say that, for people's understanding, I mean, we have a foreign reserve that is growing by the day, and the economic indices are in green, the GDP is growing, I mean, leading to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the MPC committee just dropping the interest rate by 50 basis points, which for the most part, a lot of people should be excited about. I mean, inflation is coming down marginally and things like that. But it does feel like there is a very big but.
When it comes
to our finances.
FX is not even laughing. So what should you say? I mean, whatever that affects, maybe the way the economy runs, it's not that because something just went green now, we will feel the impact. The impact cannot be felt because there are quite a number of both to the whole issue. Now we've got inflation, we've got the FX fluctuation and what have you. So that alone can hold us back. And just so you know, we've been operating on quite a number of different budgets from 2023 to 2024 to now 2025. I'm sure you're aware that there was a supplementary conversation around having to run the 2024 budget till December 2025, right? What is the cost of that?
How unusual or bizarre is that, especially for stakeholders like you who have devoted your time and resources to tracking how the budget is implemented? How do you keep tabs with that? Because for the ordinary man, it doesn't make sense that we're in 2025 and we're still running a 2024 budget.
So, you know, the basic thing we need to understand is governance is a continuous process, and we cannot track what we don't know. Over time, one of the first things we've been asking about is there have been a pronouncement on local government autonomy, right? Having to see local government receive their resources directly. That has not happened. And we activated something called fact about fact, you know, trying to understand the fact allocation to local government and what have you. I promise you, the last data we've got is that of June, right? This is September. We're rounding up September to enter October, and the only thing we have is that of June. So the reality is the information, most of those informations are not out there, but a lot of things happen. Elections, change of government, and what have you really happens to the system. So what we're seeing is that level of change that happen across this thing. So I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it happens. Sometimes it do happen. So that's what I would say. It's a continuous process, and it's a thing that I don't know what to say, because when will we start? One of the first things we've achieved with the Open Government Partnership and the introduction of that openness in governance is having to run a 12 calendar year form of budget, where we start from January to December. But now it's going to be affected because we are running 2024 and 2025 simultaneously. So maybe when we get into 2026, of which that's not a prayer, we will continue running 3 form of budget, because most of the contractors were not paid.
Yeah.
The zonal interventions were not released. So what do you say?
How unusual is that? For a country to have multiple budgets being
very unusual. It's very unusual, but it's possible since we are running it.
Right. And give me a sense of what you make of the commitments and how the administration is prioritizing some of its spending. When it comes to some of these capital projects, I know a couple of weeks ago, or just a little over a month ago, the administration, made a policy announcement that, listen, there will be no more approvals for capital projects without a cash backing, meaning that if there's no money allocated for this or readily available to execute this project, there will be no approval for it. So it has to wait until we have money for it. But what do you make of the spending pattern of this administration vis-a-vis the financial obligations it has to Nigerians?
So the truth is there are a lot of questions before we even get there. We keep borrowing. One of the main issue is the deficit we have in our budget, right? Yeah. So we keep borrowing to pay salaries. We keep borrowing to make up these issues of capital project. Now, before you borrow, the standard is cost-benefit analysis. I don't know, maybe being you a journalist, if you have seen any cost-benefit analysis from all the borrowings we've done. Now, cost-benefit analysis is what helps citizen and every other person to know that the government is borrowing for this and this and this and this, and the resources will be utilized on this and this and this. We don't have that as we speak. We don't have that. Now, we have done some level of borrowing for quite a number of time ever since this administration started. So the main issue is there is no cost-benefit analysis. So if the administration is saying yes, we cannot okay any project without cash backing, is right, but where are they getting the money from? Now, we don't generate what we are meant to be generating. That is one. Now,
when the president says we have reached our domestic revenue generation targets.
Look at the GDP to the ratio of GDP to the revenue. It's 10%. So 10%, as the name implies, what do you think of it? So if we're generating, right, then we should fund the project. We're not funding the project because there is lack of resources, and most of the projects we funded are usually during the last quarter of the year, simply because the resources are not there. We have to pay salaries, right? So all these things are coming at the last toll of the year. So there are quite a number of projects that we're doing, but most of them are with the help of international or bilateral organizations. I'll give you an example. We're running the Agile project in quite a number of states in the northern part of the country. It's been funded by World Bank, right? We've got BESDA that is winding up. We've got other projects. What exactly are we seeing from the government? More of some level of capital project, maybe the coastal way in Lagos and what have you, of which we don't know what the future of that coastal way will be. So the reality is, maybe from January, we're going to see some new development because of the new tax law that we will start operating from. But if you look at how the systems are going, police now will be generating some level of revenues because police will be giving out tinted permit every year, right? Maybe the the immigrations now with the new increments in the passport fee, within 2 years, we've had quite a number of times, I think twice or this is the second time.
Actually, we had 100% increase, right?
So the reality is the country will be, all of us will feel the issue of lack of money. But I mean, the main question should be, how do we borrow? Do we tell these people that, oh, okay, give us the money. When we finish, we will know what to do. But it is
also fair to point out that some of these borrowings are tied to projects. For instance, right? You know, you have the railroads, you have some of the...
How do you know they are tied to project? Cost-benefit analysis should be the one that will tell you.
Right, I mean, they are in the memorandum of, you know...
I mean, for them being there, cost-benefit analysis should tell you to the lowest of the lowest of the lowest number. Right?
Are you saying there's still transparency issues with regards to our finances?
Definitely. And these are accountability gaps that we really need to cover for us to make a good country.
And let's draw some parallels, because you obviously also have an understanding of not just the bigger economies in Europe or in North America, but also some who are running their economy fairly better on the continent. Yeah. How do we compare when it comes to fiscal transparency and accountability? And how responsible are we when it comes to managing our resources as a government?
So if you look at the index, the transparency index, I mean, I was here the other time when transparency released the index. There have been quite a number of things. We're doing well. We're coming up from that level of transparency. But I just gave you an index. When it comes to releases of our capital project, Ghana is at 70%. Botswana is at 80%, right? At 80 to 90%, because it's just 10% that they use to service their debt, right? If you look at the ratio of GDP to revenue, most of these countries are at quite a number of numbers before us. I mean, Nigeria is just 10%. South Africa is 27%. Kenya is 16%. Now, these are people that we are competing with in Africa, not going to North Africa that are vehemently doing really well when it comes to that. So on the issue of transparency and accountability, we have a long way to go, because we are still at, I think, 154, right? So we're still topping the list, in as much as we're doing well, right? But we still need to do more. Because, I mean, we're the giant of Africa. So if we're the giant of Africa, we should lead by example, right? So there are a lot of issues that has to do with transparency, accountability gaps. I just mentioned one thing about the issue of our open contracting. Yes, we've got some level of platform within the BPP from Nokopo and what have you that is helping the citizen to understand how government are making their contracts. We've got a different platform from the CDCU. Now that's the MDA being run by Hadiza Bala Usman. I mean, trying to put KPIs for every MDAs to show what they have been doing and what have you. But the major thing is the auditor's report. If you look at the last audit report, you could know that one of the major challenges that the auditors are having is the fact that some MDAs are not submitting their audited reports.
And is that by design, or is that just...
It's just being
red tape?
It's just them being defaulting the issue, and that's one of the things. One organization like us have been at the forefront advocating for the bill to be passed. That's the Auditor General's bill to be passed, so that it gives it more power, and more resources to be able to tackle this kind of issues, because you cannot work with what you don't audit, right? So given budget, you need feedback of that budget, and then someone need to be held accountable. So if a government will run without that feedback from an agency that is scheduled with that responsibility, then where are we going?
Right, so many unanswered questions that begs for a lot of understanding on the part of Nigerians. Muktar Modibbo, thank you so much for the analysis this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Right, and that is our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daily Politics. We will be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the team, thank you for watching the program. We'll see you soon.